The morning sunlight filled the cheerful pediatric therapy room at Madison Rehabilitation Center, where colorful artwork decorated the walls and adaptive equipment stood ready for the day's sessions. Sarah Bennett adjusted her blue nursing uniform and reviewed the schedule on her tablet, preparing for what she thought would be a routine day of pediatric care. At 31, Sarah had spent 5 years as a pediatric rehabilitation nurse, specializing in helping children recover from injuries and adapt to physical challenges. Her passion for the work came from personal experience. Her younger sister had required extensive physical therapy after a car accident, and Sarah had witnessed how the right care provider could transform a child's recovery journey. Today's schedule showed a new client consultation at 10 o'clock. Though the details were frustratingly vague due to what appeared to be a clerical error in the system, Sarah assumed it was another assessment for the center's standard programs. What Sarah didn't know was that across town, Michael Harrison was frantically trying to fix a mistake his assistant had made. At 39, Michael was the CEO of Harrison Industries. But more importantly, he was the single father of 7-year-old Emily, who used a wheelchair due to cerebral palsy that affected her legs. Michael had spent weeks interviewing specialized private nurses to provide at-home care and therapy for Emily, finally selecting someone with extensive experience in pediatric neurology. But his assistant had accidentally sent the job offer to the wrong candidate, a pediatric rehabilitation nurse at the local center instead of the highly credentialed specialist he had chosen. By the time Michael discovered the error, the specialist had already accepted another position, and Sarah had already rearranged her schedule to accommodate what she thought was a center-based consultation. When Sarah arrived at the address her supervisor had given her, she was surprised to find herself at an elegant private home rather than a medical facility. Before she could double-check the address, the door opened to reveal a well-dressed man in a navy suit who looked both stressed and relieved. "Thank goodness you're here," Michael said. "I know this situation is confusing, but please come in. Emily is waiting." Sarah's professional instincts took over despite her confusion about the location. "I'm Sarah Bennett from Madison Rehab Center. I think there may have been some miscommunication about this appointment." "There definitely was," Michael admitted. "But you're here now and Emily has been so excited to meet her new nurse. Could we at least do the assessment before we sort out the administrative confusion?" Something in his voice, a combination of stress and genuine concern for his daughter, made Sarah agree. She followed Michael into a beautifully adapted space, where a little girl sat in a wheelchair at an activity table, her blonde hair in a ponytail and her face lighting up when she saw them. "Hi, are you Miss Sarah? Daddy said you're going to help me get stronger." Sarah knelt down to Emily's level with the natural warmth she brought to all her young patients. "Hi, Emily. I'm Sarah, and I'm a nurse who helps kids work on getting stronger and learning new ways to do the things they want to do. Can you tell me about yourself?" As Emily enthusiastically explained her interests, art, stories about animals, and wanting to learn to dance despite her wheelchair, Sarah found herself completely engaged. The little girl had an infectious enthusiasm and a sharp intelligence that shone through every interaction. After spending an hour with Emily, conducting an informal assessment while making it feel like play, Sarah stepped aside to speak with Michael. "Mr. Harrison, I need to be honest with you. I think there's been a significant administrative error. I'm a pediatric rehabilitation nurse with experience in adaptive therapy, but based on what you've told me about Emily's needs, I think you were expecting someone with more specialized credentials in cerebral palsy management." Michael ran his hand through his hair with frustration. "You're absolutely right. I had hired a specialist, but my assistant sent the offer to the wrong person. And by the time we discovered the error, the specialist had taken another job." He looked back toward the room where Emily was coloring. "But I have to tell you, I've interviewed 8 highly credentialed candidates over the past month, and none of them connected with Emily the way you just did. She was nervous and withdrawn with all of them, but with you, she's relaxed and happy." Sarah appreciated the compliment but needed to maintain professional honesty. "Mr. Harrison, connection is important, but Emily needs someone with specific expertise in her condition. I can provide excellent general pediatric rehabilitation support, but I don't want to accept a position where I might be out of my depth." What if we approached this differently? Michael suggested. You clearly have the interpersonal skills, Emily responds to. What would you need in terms of additional training or consultation to feel confident providing her care? Sarah considered this thoughtfully. I'd want to work closely with Emily's medical team, consult with specialists about her specific needs, and possibly pursue additional certification in pediatric neurology rehabilitation. But Mr. Harrison, that kind of support structure is expensive and time-consuming. I'm not concerned about cost. I'm concerned about finding someone who Emily trusts and who will treat her as a whole person, not just a diagnosis. You did that in an hour. The specialists I interviewed had impressive resumes, but they talked about Emily's limitations before they talked about her potential. Over the following weeks, Sarah began working with Emily under a carefully structured arrangement. Michael funded consultations with specialists who helped Sarah develop expertise specific to Emily's needs, while Sarah brought the warmth and creativity that made therapy feel like fun rather than work. What neither Michael nor Sarah expected was how naturally they would begin to relate to each other. Michael found himself confiding in Sarah about the challenges of single parenting while running a company. Sarah discovered that beneath Michael's executive exterior was a devoted father who had learned everything he could about cerebral palsy and who prioritized his daughter's happiness over his own convenience. 6 months into the arrangement, Emily's progress had exceeded everyone's expectations. But more importantly, the three of them had become something like a family. Michael looked forward to coming home to find Sarah and Emily laughing together over art projects. Sarah found herself thinking about Michael and Emily during her off hours, checking in even when she wasn't scheduled to work. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Michael and Sarah sat in the living room discussing the week's therapy goals. Sarah, I need to tell you something, Michael began. When I hired you, or accidentally hired you, I was just looking for professional care for Emily. But you've become so much more than that to both of us. Sarah's heart raced. Recognizing where this conversation might be heading, Michael, I need to be careful about professional boundaries. I'm Emily's nurse, I know, and I would never want to compromise Emily's care or put you in an uncomfortable position. But Sarah, the way you care for my daughter, the way you see her potential instead of her limitations, the way you've brought joy back into our home, I've fallen in love with you, and I think Emily has too. Sarah felt tears forming as she admitted what she had been feeling for months. I love you both too. But Michael, we need to think about this carefully. If our relationship changes, what happens to Emily's care if things don't work out? She's bonded with me, and I can't risk disrupting her progress. Michael nodded seriously. You're right. Emily's well-being has to come first. What if we approach this the same way we've approached everything else? Thoughtfully, with proper support structures, and always keeping Emily's needs as the priority. They agreed to take things slowly, maintaining Sarah's professional role while carefully exploring their personal relationship. They consulted with Emily's medical team about how to ethically navigate the situation, and they were always honest with Emily about the evolving dynamics. A year after the wrong nurse was accidentally hired, Sarah had become not just Emily's caregiver, but part of their family. She and Michael had built a relationship founded on mutual respect, shared values about what mattered most, and genuine love that had developed through working together to support Emily. The single dad CEO, who had accidentally hired the wrong nurse, had discovered that sometimes the best things in life happen because of mistakes we couldn't have planned. And the nurse who had shown up to the wrong address had learned that perfect fits don't always come with perfect credentials. Sometimes they come from being in the right place at the right time with the right heart. Thank you for listening to this story about how unexpected paths can lead to exactly where we're meant to be. If this tale reminded you that the best relationships develop naturally through shared values and authentic connection, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in serendipity, and subscribe for more stories celebrating love that grows from genuine care and mutual respect. We'd love to hear about times when mistakes led to blessings, or when professional relationships evolved into something more meaningful. Remember, sometimes what looks like the wrong choice turns out to be exactly right.